Welcome everyone. It's now 1:01, so I'll make a start. I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Darlene McLennan, and on behalf of ATTEND and ADCET, I would like to welcome you all to this webinar. It's a very exciting step that we're taking, and that we hope that it'll be a very informative and a great experience for everybody involved. I would like to thank Sharon Kerr for sharing her wealth of knowledge experience with us. I enjoyed meeting Sharon at our last Pathways conference. Her energy, passion and enthusiasm was infectious. I'm looking forward to hearing her speak today. A few housekeeping items that we just wanted to clarify first. This webinar is being live captioned by Bradley Recording and will be recorded. The recording will be placed on ADCET, hopefully by the end of the week. To actually be able to see the caption pod more clearly, there is a slide bar between the PowerPoint that you would see on your screen now and where the caption is. You can actually click on that and move that around so that you can make the captioning pod a lot larger if you require, or even move it around your screen. We're in the process of trialling different platforms, trying to seek the best one that meets everyone's accessibility needs. There are some downsides to the GoToWebinar platform, and we apologise for this. During trialling, we were advised that there are some accessibility issues, especially with screen readers. So we do apologise, and will be trialling a few more platforms in the near future, hoping to get the right one that meets everybody's needs. All participants have been muted. This is to ensure that we receive little background noise as possible, because we can only hear Sharon's birds and her traffic, and that's about it. Sharon will speak for about 40 to 45 minutes, and we'll be giving her a warning at 40 minutes to say she's getting close. Throughout the presentation, feel free to enter your questions into the question pod or box. And at the end of the session, I will ask Sharon those questions. Hopefully we'll get to them all, but if we don't, we will try to answer them through ADCET at some stage. Also just a reminder for the screen reader users online that if they have any questions or comments they would like to make during the webinar, they are able to email Jane Hawkeswood at utas.edu.au, and we'll ensure they get passed on to Sharon as well. Also, if you have any technical difficulties during the webinar, please email Jane as well. So now I'd like to hand over to Sharon. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you very much, Darlene, and it's a great privilege to be part of this great initiative of ADCET and ATTEND, and I've really been looking forward to today. So let's go. Today what we're looking at is meeting the challenges, serving the students, and looking through the lens of what's happening in the world with new assistive technologies. For those of you who are using screen readers, you will have received a Word document with the slides, and I will simply be saying next slide as I progress through the talk today. So next slide, here we go. The technology is becoming increasingly simple and an increasingly cost-effective support that we can provide to students. And it's providing autonomy and confidence and, most of all, job readiness. For all of us in education who are working with people who are doing their diplomas, their degrees, they are trying to move towards employment and lifelong opportunities. And if we can set them up with technology which will get them set for life while they're studying, their life's going to be much the richer. Next slide. Before I get started, I'd like to introduce Global Access Project and my wonderful colleagues, Kylie Colvin and David Wright. Also, for those of you who have put in questions and requested information about assistive technologies and called, or for international students, I want to reassure you that these areas will be addressed both throughout the conference, but also at the very end I'm going to be addressing those as well. And I think when I introduce my colleagues, you'll see that it's core to our heart as to the needs of this student group as well. Next slide. So what is GAP? GAP is an initiative of the Higher Education Consulting Group. And we work closely with major technology players, including IBM, NUANCE, and in association with major universities really right across the world through the US, the European Union and Canada, through the Liberated Learning Consortium. Our focus is to provide information and solutions so that students with a disability can access all of the learning experience and achieve their full potential. Next slide. When this webinar is over, you're invited to go and have a look at our website. The address is down the bottom here, globalaccessproject.com, and you'll see that we provide information and toolkits to assist students and university support teams. Some of the delegates today indicated that they were new to this field and they didn't really know anything about assistive technologies. We've got in our toolkit, we've got documentation which is free for you to take and use in your own institution to give people background knowledge of things such as assistive technologies and ways of developing curriculum so that it's accessible, etc. Next slide. We're located in Sydney, Australia, and a big shout out today to our friends in the United States who have joined us. We are in Bridge Street in Sydney, which is, like its name, very, very close to the Harbour Bridge. And our senior team have extensive global experience in higher education, and together we added it up. It's over 50 years combined experience, and we're not all that old. Next slide. David Wright, who is at the image at the top of the screen here, he comes from an amazing background and has amazing energy. He is, I first met David when he was Vice President or Deputy Vice Chancellor at Macquarie University. And he has a great focus on international students and helping universities develop their strategic directions. With me, as you'll see, I have an education background. Originally, I was actually a Japanese language teacher before I got into, and ESL, English as a Second Language teacher, before I got into higher education and lecturing there, and then into online education, and then into accessibility. But so really everything that I do with accessibility has been based on a foundation of a background in English as a Second Language learning and foreign language learning. And then there is the wonderful Kylie Colvin. For many of you who have been getting resources converted, Kylie has probably been the person that you have been dealing with. I met Kylie again at Macquarie University, where she was the Chief of Staff for 3 Vice Chancellors. She is also an analyst, and she is running a very important project nationally in Australia at the moment, where we're sending out a questionnaire, and we'll be talking to universities to get their input so that we can provide a report to the sector about what sort of expenditure is happening in different universities. It'll be de-identified, but so that you as disability support staff will be able to see, well, look, other universities are doing this with expenditure, and to help you strengthen your case with your university for support for students with disability. So that is Kylie, and she is the person who you need to contact if you need conversions of materials into alternate formats. Next slide. Okay, so you would have seen from the promotion for this webinar that I have just returned from CSUN in San Diego in California. This was an absolutely amazing experience. It's the second time I've spoken at this conference, and they had 4,500 delegates go through over the week. It was absolutely impressive. So the two major observations that I had, firstly, was that the technologies are getting better, they're getting cheaper, and they're getting easier to use autonomously. And that was absolutely wonderful to see. The second thing was, for me, was that in the United States, the challenges that their experience are the same as what we're experiencing here in Australian universities and TAFEs. Next slide. What I was absolutely blown away about is that litigation has become a reality against US universities for lack of access. Now, remembering that the US has very similar laws with regard to access to education as Australia. And whilst many of the universities are distressed about this, it was interesting to see the enthusiasm with our colleagues over there who are providing support to students with disabilities, seeing that action has been taken and people are starting to take it seriously. And I have a graphic there which just has a few of the universities which have had successful cases brought against them. So you'll see they're not small universities, it's right across the range. So looking through my lens, speaking to delegates at the conference, it was clear to me that there is a shift, that accessibility is no longer viewed as a responsibility delegated simply to disability support staff, which I really believe it has been for many years. Universities, colleges and TAFEs have just said, all right, we have our disability support team. It's up to you to meet the needs of the students with disabilities. We'll pay your wages, we'll give you a minimal amount to provide support, and our job is done. And it really doesn't have anything to do with us as teaching staff or us as administrators, because the disability or the equity unit is looking after it. And I saw that there's a shift, and it's now being taken seriously by the presidents of universities. For those of you in Australia, presidents are what we call our vice-chancellors, and their senior teams. Next slide. When I went to some of the original documentation and I looked at the complaints that were being brought against these US universities, it really resonated with what I'd seen was our experience here in Australia. You know, inaccessible class assignments and materials on the learning management system, and Moodle was cited. Inaccessible live chat and discussion board functions in the learning management system. Inaccessible documents that are scanned on web pages and websites and, you know, onto library sites. Inaccessible videos and audio that's not captioned. Next slide. Yes, there's more. And the library database materials not being accessible for students, and inaccessible course registration, and staff coming up with great innovations that they're introducing into lectures, such as the use of clickers or augmented reality, and these not being accessible. Next slide. So From presentations at CSUN, there appeared to be the following trends. I would love to say it's all happened and it's all there, but I'd say it's probably more accurate to say that there is a trend towards this response now. The auditing of courses and university websites for accessibility. In a number of universities that were presenting at CSUN, this is now becoming a cornerstone compliance requirement. What I found fascinating was that some of these auditing initiatives were actually coming from student bodies, and not student bodies that were focused on students with disabilities. They were from the general student bodies who saw this as a human rights issue and something that they wanted to get behind to make sure that their fellow students could access the full learning experience. So that's one of the things that I'm seeing happening. Also with the technologies that are coming out, there are a number of technologies from colleagues that we've been dealing with which actually develop a technical solution that goes into a website, audits the entire university website to see what's accessible, what's not accessible, what documents need to be modified, and giving a quick remedy for the ones that can be remedied quickly. So technology solutions, development of tools, that's all happening in the auditing of the courses. The other trend that I saw, which I was quite excited about because it's something that I've been a believer in for quite some time, and that is the separating of the disability support relating to accessibility of learning environments away from other student support services such as counselling, and having accessibility services, so that you have the team that or the support area that is on top of the assistive technologies, is on top of universal design of curriculum, is on top of conversions and how to source them. They stand separate, and therefore they're not competing for resources with the counselling services and other services that disability support services across Australia are finding that are absorbing all of their time. Next slide. I was also thrilled to see that there was a focus on curriculum being designed and delivered so that it can be accessed by students reliant on assistive technologies. Just getting things right from the start. If you're developing your online learning experience and you're providing an audio, have it captioned from the start, and that's what they're doing. Having the video captioned from the start. Making sure that the documentation is in a text format that can be accessed using assistive technologies. Also, they were equipping students with assistive technologies that they need to engage with the learning experience, but not just handing out technology and saying, hi guys, here it is, welcome to university or college, here is your technology. No, they were providing the student with training. They understood that there was a gestation period of them having to learn how to use that technology. That support was being provided at the bedrock of their studies so that not only were they good to go as far as their studies, but good to go, hopefully, for the rest of their lives in using assistive technologies as part of their employment and lifelong learning. Also, I saw that there was a shift away from types of support that have a variable and unreliable outcome, such as the use of untrained note takers. And this was interesting as well. And I was fascinated to see that there was a focus on ensuring that it was 100% accessible right from the start, that there was confidence held by both the institution and the student that the accommodations being made for them were exactly what they needed to have 100% of access. Next slide. And I know I'm probably preaching to the converted here, but we really do need to remember that Today, with the use of assistive technologies, students with a wide range of sensory, physical, learning disabilities, and also if they've got the disability in an English-speaking university, that English is not their first language, by the use of assistive technologies, they're able to access the full learning experience. All that is required is for materials to be presented in a format that can be accessed by these technologies. I don't know how many of you have had frustrations if there was an app that you really wanted to get, and you might have had an Apple iPhone and the app wasn't developed in a format that could be accessed by Apple, and you're thinking, crikey, in this day and age, surely all apps should be developed in a format that can be accessed by my technology. We have that expectation that we have the technology that can do these wonderful things for us, and what we want to access, what we need to access, should be formatted in a format that we can access with our technology. And students with a disability, assistive technology users, are no different. There is the expectation that this is how and things should be done. Next slide. So, what are the major assistive technologies? Now, for many of you, you're totally on top of assistive technologies, but for others who have registered today indicated didn't know anything about assistive technologies, so I'm just going to quickly go over a little definition that I've brought of primarily 4 categories. Next slide. One of the most common ones is text-to-speech, and many of you will have heard of JAWS, window eyes, NVDA, inbuilt screen readers on handheld devices such as iPads. For students to be able to access text using these technologies, the text needs to be live text and not embedded in an image. What that means is if you do a scan of a document and it's a photo image, these technologies can't access it. Now, I'm just going to go to my other screen and just play you a little bit of a JAWS recording so that you can experience what it's like. Okay. All right. So that's just a little, to give you an idea if you haven't experienced JAWS, what it sounds like. If you are new to text-to-speech, I really would encourage you just to go to YouTube, and you'll see that there's a whole lot of fantastic resources on introduction to screen readers, stuff just to get you up and going. And as an aside, the new JAWS that was released at CSUN is really quite amazing and worth looking at. Next slide. The next category is speech-to-text solutions. Now, this is one of the areas that GAP is working with IBM, NUANCE and the Liberated Learning Consortium for an accurate automated response. There are other solutions too, such as the captioning service being provided for this webinar, and Jason is doing a wonderful job there and doing the transcriptions for this webinar today. But I guess the golden egg is getting to a stage where people can have captions that are accurate whenever they want, whenever they need, at low or no cost. And this is what we're working towards with these key players. With text-to-speech, speech-to-text solutions, assistive technologies can include good recording equipment. It may even be that you have students who are deaf or hard of hearing who needing materials transcribed or captioned, providing good quality recording material is essential to assist that process. Next slide. The next category is technology that can be used by students with a range of learning disabilities such as dyslexia, or if English is not your first language. If you remember how you learned how to read, it well may have been that someone was actually reading to you. And if you see this image here, we have a foldable OCR camera which takes a photo of the page instantly, and then it is read through the computer program Wynn, and the words are highlighted while the electronic voice is reading it. So if English isn't your first language, or if you have a learning disability, this is just a wonderful way of actually accessing materials instantly. Next slide. And the fourth category, I hope you like this, I said everything else, because you can imagine at what is happening at the moment with apps, etc., throughout the world, and with applications. There's new innovations being developed in response to need, in response to individuals' needs, individual groups' needs. And I've given you this example here of this RealSam voice-controlled audio reader. And this is a wonderful little audio reader that it responds to voice, it's voice actuated, and then the user can navigate through a website, or so they can read newspapers daily, etc., using it. I have the website there where you'll be able to go and have a little look at it. But this is just one example of the many customized technologies that are coming out. Next slide. So, what were the standouts at CSUN? And when we're talking about the trade hall, we're talking about a trade hall that was probably the size of a football field. It was huge. So the technologies there were amazing. But in the presentations that I was going to, I was blown away by the use of 3D printing for a whole range of solutions for students with individual needs. So one-off solutions for students. Now these range from book holders for students with paralysis to 3D models for students who are blind. This is something that I was starting to work with in my previous role in the use of 3D printing. And 3D printing can be variable according to the quality of printer. But what I was seeing at the conference is that universities were actually using their engineers and their engineer faculties who were just lapping up the opportunity to do something of value with this new technology that they were playing with. And the universities in the engineering departments tend to have very, very good equipment. And I've said here I can see a day when engineers will be employed as part of the accessibility support team. And I really encourage you, when you are recruiting staff for your areas, to think a little bit outside the box and think, well, hey, if someone was a rehab engineer, what skills could they bring that might be a little different to someone who has a counselling background that would complement the existing skill base. Next slide. And I've given you an example here of Ben Salatin, and he's a rehabilitation engineer, and he's with the US Department of Veteran Affairs. And if you can have a look at the picture that is there, and for those using screen readers, what he's actually done is he's developed one-off 3D solutions for students who have mobility issues and weren't able to use a traditional keyboard, so stands for the keyboards to stand on, covers to go over them to pick up what mobility that they actually had. So there was a whole range of different one-off solutions that he was able to come up with and print off at very low cost. Like he was talking about solutions that were under $5. I'm sure many of you have seen the artificial limbs, etc., that have been built using the 3D printing. Next slide. The second standout was the emphasis on the importance of delivering materials in Braille for students who are Braille users. What I'm hearing a lot and around Australia is people saying, okay, we're giving text-to-speech solutions for students so that they don't need Braille. This has been pushed against throughout the US and Canada, and there are a whole lot of wonderful innovations that are coming up to assist Braille users. And I've given the example here of Dancing Dots, which is for a whole suite of products for students who are blind and learning music. There was others specifically for mathematics, for science, etc. as well. And Stevie Wonder actually came to the conference to see some of the products, and which was a little bit exciting, and I resisted tweeting. I thought that was, wasn't the done thing. Next slide. The Braille Braille displays that can be used with iPads, iPhones and other handheld devices. And this is just one of the many, many devices. Now, I've got an image here for those using screen readers of a human-wear Braille display. Now, this is about the size of a ruler, and this can be used in conjunction with a laptop, an iPad, etc. And the actual spikes come up under the students' fingers so that they can read the document in Braille. Now, this is so important when you're talking about specialised language, spelling, when you're talking about our students being empowered to actually write essays accurately and have the appropriate spellings, etc., for the technical terminology. You can't do that if you've only heard the text. Next slide. Now, this one absolutely blew me away. This is technologies to assist students with severe mobility issues, Eyegaze technologies. Now, we have an image here of a student who's a quadriplegic who is looking at his screen. Now, I actually use this technology, and it really took me less than 2 minutes to be up and going. What it does is it shines a little light into your eyes. It doesn't impact onto your own vision when you're using it. And then it tracks the movement of your eyes. So you can actually look at something on the screen and the cursor will go where you're looking, and then you're able to click it with a blink. It's just amazing. And I've seen it tweeted by others that this Eyegaze technology for students with severe mobility issues is going to be the next big thing. The freedom that it gave to the users was just amazing. Not having to use voice, again, just a wonderful, wonderful boom, and easy to use. It was expensive. It was, because I asked, it was about $13,000 US, but for students who are getting their disability insurance schemes, this is something for them to think about when they're getting themselves kitted up. So I'd encourage you to have a look at that too. Next slide. And my final observation was the emphasis on equipping students for employment and the presence of big employers and technology companies at the conference. They get it, you know. I was blown away seeing the CIA there, and I went up to them and I said, you know, I was surprised to see you guys here. And they said, well, look, we are interested in the abilities that people with a disability have. that is what we are interested, because we know that people with a disability make exceptional employees and have many times gifts, attention spans, etc., that others don't have. I did mention this to some colleagues and over Twitter, and Microsoft tweeted back to me a shout out to Sharon, we're here too, which they were. So all of the big technology companies, they were there and they're keen, and I think that's very exciting. And of course IBM, who's been our dear friend for many years with what we've been trying to do. Next slide. The bottom line for all of these technologies is that they lead to more autonomy and confidence for students and better graduate outcomes for students and businesses. And they also provide cost efficiencies for universities. And in Australia, these technologies are still claimable. Next slide. So how do these technologies assist international students and those from a core background? This is something that I have mentioned that as we've been going through it, but all of these technologies give flexibility to the students of how they access their learning experience. I know, for me, as my second language is Japanese, and I know that if I am in a Japanese lecture, I might be fine with some people who are talking in Japanese, but for others who have a different accent, I might be struggling. If I can access captions of the lecture at the same time as I'm listening, that's going to mean that my language skills are going to be increased, but also my comprehension is going to be increased. Similarly, if I can actually listen to a text by using text-to-speech technologies, and I can actually trace it being read to me, that's going to enhance my reading capacity as well. So all of these technologies really have huge implications for international students, for students who come from a culturally and linguistically diverse background. And I really encourage universal use of them, not just to be, I guess, earmarked only for the use of students with a disability. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next one, which, how does that go, guys? Right on 40 minutes. I'm ready for my questions. Are there any questions? And I'm waiting.
Learn to unmute myself. Thank you very much, Sharon. That's absolutely fantastic. Yes, I was overwhelmed with the thought of employing engineers, and I've been looking for a new career direction, so maybe that could be my new career. I might take up a diploma in engineering next. That's quite exciting. Yeah?
No, I was just going to say with the engineer issue, the thing is, what I went to a number of these 3D printing presentations, and the quality of the stuff that was done with the 3D printing from the, I guess, traditional disability support staff, who was struggling, really struggling with these, programs to develop the materials, to those that had actually used their engineers on campus, it was light years away. And we've all got engineers around us, we've just got to uncover them.
Yep, oh, that's brilliant. Now, we've only had one question, so I encourage people to use the question or pod there to ask questions. So we've just got one question that, will you please explain why good recording equipment is important?
All right. Well, today, for today's presentation, I actually went out and got a new microphone so that it wouldn't be, it would be the optimum quality that would be coming through the webinar. If you're using old equipment and the quality of the recording is not good, then it might be the captioner, such as Jason, will not be able to accurately hear what's being said, or if it's being transcribed by groups like GAP after the lectures, then if we haven't got a good solid recording, then it makes it very difficult to give a quick, accurate transcription of the material that's being delivered.
Yep, excellent. So we haven't got any other questions at the moment. Is there anything finally you would like to say, Sharon?
Well, I sure can. Look,
well, we have got another question, so before you start your sprue.
That's okay. Oh, no.
Oh, we've got lots of questions coming in.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. We've got time, guys. I think I wanted to leave time for everyone to have time for a question, and I think we've got time. We've got 15 minutes, so bring those questions in.
Yep, that's good. So what is your opinion of the inbuilt voiceover features on Macs in comparison to JAWS?
I think that it's up to the individual user. And the JAWS is an absolutely wonderful program, and I'm going to take you back to this one here.
Now, just to let you know that I didn't want to interrupt at the time. We actually didn't hear that, so I don't know why the audio didn't come up.
Did you hear me now?
We can hear you, but we couldn't hear the JAWS speaking.
Oh, couldn't you hear that?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
that's okay. I didn't want to interrupt.
Just as well it was captioned then, guys. Hey. But it actually, JAWS, there you'll see, it stands for Job Access with Speech. Job Access with Speech. So it is an absolutely wonderful program and has a lot of wonderful inbuilt features that, including now the scanning of PDFs. So I really think that it's important to listen to your students and see what they find. There is a learning curve with a program like JAWS. For a student who has lost their sight later on, it may be for them that some of the Mac products are good. But I would really, I guess, shy away from having a university policy with one or the other. I think it's very important to listen to the individual students' needs and to customise according to their needs. If someone is new to the use of these technologies, the NVDA, that is a free one, they can play with that. JAWS actually has a 6-week trial, so they can download it and play with it. As far as using the speech facilities on the Apple and even Samsung products, that is, it's just a matter of going to the settings. So I'd say trial it with the individual student, see what meets their individual needs and go that way rather than an institutional approach.
Excellent. One of the other questions is, have you come across some useful apps for iPads or iPhones that support students with disability?
Yeah. Look, hundreds.
Maybe that could be your next presentation.
Yeah, no, there are actually hundreds, and I think that what I'm seeing with a lot of the apps is that they're providing part of the app for free, but then to get the full functionality you need to pay extra. So for some of them you actually can go and trial them, but just, I think, be careful. Again, I think it's good if it's going to supplement what a student, the suite of tools that a student has. I think it's dangerous from an institution's perspective to say, okay, we're going to give everyone free apps and that's it. Because if you're looking at some of the programs like Wynn and Read and Write Gold, they have the IT support, the backup, the there's a lot of reliability there. We're not asking students just to do incidental reading. Some of these apps are absolutely fantastic for incidental reading, such as a business card or a bus timetable or, you know, things like that. But we're actually asking students to read, you know, hundreds of thousands of words, complex text, and we need to equip them with the best technologies that we can to do that, I believe. But there literally are hundreds and hundreds of apps. As the new technology develops, there's just been a new iPhone that came out last year. A lot of the apps that were developed prior to that don't run on the new iPhone, so you have all of those sorts of problems with the apps. But if you have a student who has a particular need, it's certainly worth the old Googling and seeing, you know, or going to the App Store and seeing what is available. It may even be that some of the apps to help students relax, you know, relax and turn off are something that is as valuable as anything. And there's certainly a lot of relaxation apps and well-being apps as well. Yep.
That's brilliant. One of the presentations at the Pathways conference was from a woman that was a specialist in the ADHD area, and yeah, she identified some of the great apps, which is also on the Pathways conference, the PowerPoint presentation there, so that's a good one. Just following on from one of the first, yeah?
Darling, I'll do a Dorothy Dix. So darling, how can they find that?
They can go onto the Pathways 12 website, but my colleague Jane Hawkeswood is in the process of moving those PowerPoint presentations over to the ADCET website. And for those who may have missed it on the Ofsted list, we actually have recently received number 1 Pathways and another earlier Pathways, which is absolutely fantastic to be receiving some of the previous Pathways from years and years ago, the content from those conferences. Now, just one of the first questions that was asked in regards to good recording equipment, one of the participants fed back that they also imagined text-to-speech software would struggle with noisy audio also.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. All right, well, I think that's the final question, so if you would like to finish up and then we can finish.
All right then. Okay, well look, thank you everyone for attending today's webinar, and we were very buoyed by the number of people who registered. I don't know how many people actually came online. 53, wow. So 53 of you are out there, which is wonderful. We had 84 people who registered for this, and so the people who couldn't make it, they'll be able to access it online. But thank you for joining us today. And if Global Access Project can be of assistance in any way, in either doing conversions of your learning materials or providing advice on assistive technologies, for helping with curriculum design, accessibility plans, etc. Look, please feel free to either contact me or Kylie, the wonderful Kylie, who you met earlier on in the presentation, and or visit our website at globalaccessproject.com. You'll see that there are some free resources there on the toolkit, and we'll only be building that as well as time goes by. I'm going to the next slide. The final thought for the day, and I have to thank David Wright for his inspiration with this as well, but he was very keen for us to give the key message that having a disability does not mean that a student is academically disabled, nor should it mean that they are to be handicapped by lack of access to the learning environment. Assistive technologies, universal design of curriculum, and conversions of inaccessible materials are the 3 pillars for access. And it's up to us to ensure that all 3 are implemented. Because the end of it, guys, we are the gatekeepers to access. And so we have a real burden of responsibility there. But thank you very, very much for joining us today. And as I said, if we can help in any way, we're happy to do these webinars on a whole range of topics. We're happy to help wherever we can. Please feel free to contact us. Thank you, and thank you to ADCET and Attend, to Darlene and Jane, and to Jason for doing the captioning. And I think you'll all agree that he's done a brilliant job up there. So thank you very much.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Sharon. And we've had some people just provide questions of thank you, and they very much appreciate what you do, so we'll make sure we forward that on to you. So thank you, everybody. We'll close the webinar now, and as we said, this video will be up on ADCET by the end of the week, and it will be captioned. So thank you for participating, and please provide us with any feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.